Welcome to Chesapeake Public Schools Family Empowerment Webinar, presented by the Office of Family and Community Engagement. Our office, which is part of the Department of Engagement, aims to build meaningful partnerships that inspire, engage, and empower families, educators, and community organizations to support the initiatives of Chesapeake Public Schools. You can reach us at our main phone line or via email at the contact information listed on the screen. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to working together to strengthen our community and support our students. Our goal is to continue providing families with valuable webinars, events, and information to empower them in the educational setting. We are excited to offer our families the Peak Parent University course catalog, which provides an overview of all of our events for the school year. Here, you can also catch up on pre-recorded webinars, explore a wide range of educational resources, and make valuable community connections to enhance your family's well-being. Please take a moment to scan the QR code, which gives you access to our Peak Parent University catalog. This will provide you with monthly updates, including descriptions, times, and locations of upcoming events. You can also go to cpschools.com and in the search menu, type Peak Parent University. Thank you for joining us for a webinar on Mastery Connect. We are excited to welcome our panelists from the Department of Technology Innovation, Mr. Michael Horton and Mr. Thomas Coker.
Hello and welcome back, everyone. My name is Michael Horton with the Chesapeake Public Schools Department of Technology Innovation. We're so glad you could join us for part 2 of our Canvas for Parents series. In our first session, we introduced the Canvas Observer role as a powerful conversation starter. We also mentioned that some third-party tools are not visible from the parent account. Today, we are going to dive into one of those key tools, which is Mastery Connect. Here with me again is our department's Assistant Director, Thomas Coker. The goal for the next 15 to 20 minutes is to show you how you can sit down with your child to review their assessment results in Mastery Connect, and most importantly, how to use that data to have meaningful conversations and support their learning at home. Thomas, welcome back.
Well, thanks as always, Michael. It's great to be back again here. This is a great next step in our conversation. So in part 1, we learned what our children were working on, right? But today we're going to learn how to, well, not only what they're doing, but how well they're mastering specific skills and standards within their courses.
So Thomas, let's start with the big question we ended with last time. We know parents cannot see Mastery Connect from their Observer account. Can you explain what Mastery Connect is and the proper way for a parent to review this information?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mastery Connect is the assessment platform for our teachers. They use it for quizzes, tests, benchmarks, all forms of assessment. Because it's an external tool, that requires a specific CPS login. And so it's just not visible in observer mode. So what does that mean for us? What's that important takeaway? Well, it really needs to be designed as a sit-together activity where the student is logged in with you so that you can see what's going on.
That sit-together approach is a great way to frame it. So once a parent and a student are logged in together, what are they looking for? Can you walk us through how to find those detailed assessment results?
Absolutely. So definitely there are a couple of ways to get there. First and foremost, I need you to know at the bottom of this this video, in the description below, you're going to have walkthrough guides for everything we're going through today. So if you have any questions or concerns, or you can't visualize what we just did, no, you can go down to the description, click that parent document, open it up, and walk through this step by step with directions. But as always, it's easier to show than it is to tell. So let's go ahead and jump in and try it. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to dive in one of these situations. So let's say you have your student log into Canvas. So you're sitting right next to them, you're having a conversation with them, they're logged in, it almost always defaults to the dashboard. Now, if you're elementary, instead of seeing courses, you're going to see subjects, okay? But it doesn't matter. It's effectively the same thing. But we're going to take a look. We're going to take a deep dive into a math class today. So I'm going to jump into courses and this Math 6 classroom. So when you jump in a classroom, the first thing you want to be able to do is have a conversation about a Mastery Connect assessment. So how would you do that? You can do that in one of two ways inside the course. So the first one is to jump into the modules. This is where our teachers lay out the learning for the week or the month or the 2 weeks. And what I want you to first see is you see these little icons on the left, that tells you what type of assignment it is. So for instance, that little rocket ship, that's actually a Canvas quiz. What we're looking for today, though, is a Mastery Connect assessment. And it's 5 dots that form an M. So I'm going to keep scrolling until I see an example. Here's one right here. So here's a grade 6 summative assessment that's upcoming, and you see those 5 dots. Now, I'm not going to click on this one. I'm going to show you the other way that you can also go. So if modules is an option, the other option potentially is under assignments. So if you clicked on assignments, it looks almost the same, except for now it's just structured by the types of assignments they have. Upcoming assignments, updated assignments. We want to look at an old test, so we're going to look at some past assignments today. So if I scroll all the way down, I'm looking for that 5M dot. There's that Unit 2 assessment. I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to go ahead and use our Unit 1 summative. So there's my 5 dots, and I'm just going to click on it. Now, when you click on it, it's going to load if they've already turned it on. And so here's the first thing you're always going to see. You're going to see how well that your student did or your child did on the assessment. So in this case, this student earned a 15 out of 20 or a 75%. You also can see key here are the 4 standards that were present on this assessment. So at S3A, I have mastery. 3B, I have mastery. 3C, I'm nearing mastery, I'm yellow. So I want to talk through the 4 colors that you'll see. So you can see blue, notice our 3D, that exceeds mastery. They did really well. They're an A student, right? If you see that green color, that means they have strong skills, they've mastered the content, not quite perfect, but mastered. That's a B student, a C+ to a B student, right? Yellow is our nearing mastery, right? So that's a C-, a D, maybe almost passing, but still struggling a little bit to fully understand that skill or concept. And the last color you'll sometimes see is red, and that means remediation. That's an area that that student really, really struggled on that assessment. So when I take a look at this, the student did a pretty good job, overall 75, and we have one area, 3C, that we really want to dig a little deeper into. So how do we dig a little bit deeper? So the way we dig a little deeper is to look at their overall results in their mastery tracker. So let's talk about that. So if you're in the elementary land, say grades 2 or 3, instead of seeing it on the left side bar, there's a resources button. You would click resources, and then you'll see an option for modules. But in secondary land, it's a little bit easier. You'll see mastery tracker right here on the left. I click on my mastery tracker, and now I can see there are those 4 standards from my Unit 1 assessment, 3A, 3B, 3C, and 3D. And I can see those colors. Now I'm going to give you a warning. Those colors might not be exactly the same. And the reason is the tracker isn't just looking at the one assessment. It's looking at all their assessments from the entire course of the year. Now, in this case, it's really early in the year. They only assessed it the one time, so it will match. I've got one assessment from that test. They got a 3 out of 4, so they earned a 75% on this one. That shows me as green. When I come here, again, notice right here on this assessment, again, I was a 4 out of 5 on 3B. On 3C, the one that I was struggling a little bit, I'm a 3 out of 6, right? So there's the one that maybe I need to focus most of my energy on. And if I look at my last standard on this test, I notice I got a 5 out of 5. I rocked 3D. And notice, importantly, I actually know exactly the content that's being discussed. So when I look at the one that I earned a 3 out of 6 on, that's number in number sense. The student recognizes and represents patterns with whole number exponents and perfect squares. That's what I need to work on. and justify if a number between 0 and 400 is a perfect square. So it could be a question as simple as, is 15 a perfect square? Is 20 a perfect square? And they have to recognize from 0 to 400. Now, as I mentioned before, if they had been given other assessments on this standard, you would see other tiles, and it would show you exactly how they did on each of these assessments. So another student might have 3 examples. They might have earned a 2 out of 2, and then a 3 out of 6, and then a 5 out of 6. And that's where those colors might be a little bit different. So I also want to mention one other cool thing about this page, which is at the very top, you'll have this circle bar. If for some reason, sometimes based on your aspect ratio, if you don't see this information on the right, scroll all the way to the bottom. It may be at the bottom. But it walks you through, hey, on this course, 75% of my standards are green and blue, and 25% are yellow or red. It breaks you down even further right here, and you can even hit a view report. So if I open up that view report, for instance, I can see I still have a lot of the class to teach, to go. This is how I'm doing so far, but lots of unassessed standards. I can look at a progress timeline. Again, there's not a lot of data here yet, but over time, those bars will ramp up. But nonetheless, there's a lot of really strong information here available for you. Now, I do want to mention the other way you can get there. So I just showed you the way to do it inside the course. So just a real quick recap. I went to my modules. I found that 5.m, clicked it. It showed me how they did and the standards they did on. I then went to the mastery tracker and looked at their more holistic data and how they're doing overall in the course. But just in case, you can also do it by going to Mastery here on the far left. So if in this blue navigation bar, I could hit Mastery, and inside of here, I can now see all of the trackers. So the beauty of this one is I can jump between English and math and history and social studies without having to go into each individual course. And as before, I can hit on math, and I'm going to see the exact same thing I saw on the tracker. There is literally no difference here. The other thing that's sometimes powerful is up here in classes, I can switch the view from progress to assessments. And as you can see in this case, this is the one assessment that we've completed for this course. And you can click on it, and we'll talk about that next to see even potentially more information. But that's the basics, right? You can know exactly how they did percentage-wise. You can know how they did on each of those standards. And then you can look at overall how they're doing.
Thank you for walking us through those steps, Thomas. But I heard you say that sometimes the assessment isn't visible. Can you explain again why an evaluation may not be visible even after it has been completed?
Absolutely. So one thing that I'm going to show you in this case, I'm going to click on it, and you're going to see it. So I click on this, and it actually opens up the assessment. Okay. There will be some times when you go to click on it, it'll basically just either circle wheel on you, or it won't allow it to open, so you do not have access. Mm-hmm. So let's talk through why. The big reason is some of these assessments are common assessments that are given division-wide or school-wide. And it's important for test security purposes that we don't just give those questions out, because then the results aren't reliable. If that test is out there in the ether, everyone's using it, doing well, and all of a sudden a kid gets access to it before they take the test, and now all of our results are invalid, and we can't help the students the right way. Mm-hmm. So for most common assessments that are division-wide, those items will be hidden from you. Now, just to be clear, everything I've already showed you, you have 100% access to all of the time. So you will always know how well they did. You will always know what standards they're struggling with and doing really well on. The question is, when you go to click this button, right, will it open? And if it does open, your teacher was nice enough to let you see it. Again, sometimes they will, sometimes they won't, okay? And if you're not sure, like, should I be allowed to see it? You're certainly allowed to reach out to your teacher and have a question and say, hey, on this formative check or on this unit assessment, could I see the assessment so I can help my son or daughter? You absolutely can ask that question, but just know if it's one of those common assessments, the answer might be no. But let's walk through what it could look like if the answer is yes. So again, let's say it was a quick exit ticket one day, you're trying to help them out, your teacher's nice enough to open it up. They can open up to 3 things for you. The first thing they can do is let you see the assessment. And when you can see the assessment, you can click through all the different questions and you can see how or what the question is. If they've turned on the correct answer, you'll also be able to see the answer below it. So you can see both what the question is and what the answer is. The last thing they can turn on is to let you see what the student answered. Okay, so you can see on number 1, I got it correct and I put C. On number 6, I got it incorrect, but I said C. So what I often tell people, this is a little bit of I'm not going to lie, it's a little wonky, right? So if you were to help your student with this or your child, what I'd recommend is start with the student answers, write down all the questions that they got wrong, maybe write down what they thought the answer was, and then flip back to the assessment tab and go over each of those questions with your child. Now, you might notice that a few of them seem to be blank. Okay, so I'm going to show this example to you in a second. Sometimes some of our questions are so complex, they're technology enhanced items, you can't really explain why it was right or wrong. And so let's take a look at number 2 real quick and see why. So as number 2 is actually a closed text, they had to type in an exact response. So you know what they got it right or wrong, but you don't know exactly what they typed that got that right or wrong. So I just wanted to share you that one technical limitation. Do know we're working with Mastery Connect all the time, and we're asking them to improve and make that blank space as rare as possible, but it does happen from time to time. So once again, a common district assessment will often be locked. And when you go to click this, it's not going to work. It's going to say you're denied. But again, you still had access to their score. You still had access to the standards and how they did on it. And you still have access to their overall mastery tracker to get a sense of how they're doing in the class.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm glad to hear that parents and students can always look at their data, which includes their scores and mastery of the tested standards. But how can a parent use this information to have a productive conversation and actually support their child's learning at home?
Yeah, so let me go back. I kind of got into that a little bit earlier, but I can take it one step further. So we had this assessment. It had 4 standards on it. The student got a 75 overall on the assessment. So how can I actually take it one step further? As I mentioned before, I can come in here. Here's my yellow standard. This is the area that I'm struggling with, right? And we can ask them, say, hey, I saw you did really well on 3 standards. Awesome. I saw on part D, you rocked it out of the park. Like you really know, you really understand how to recognize and represent powers of 10, right? So like that is something you do perfectly. And so you can have a really positive interaction with your child. I did a great job here. But I did notice that one of our 4 standards on this test were not quite there yet, right? I see we only got 3 of 6 of them right. So let's have a conversation, right? So you can have a talk. What did you do right? What did you do wrong? In the case of math, they have IXL, right? So maybe you could jump into an IXL lesson and work on this exact skill. Maybe if you look in their in the modules that the teacher has, they might have remediation opportunities or practice opportunities. You can jump into Khan Academy and practice this explicit skill. But it starts the conversation and it leads to actionable steps you can take. Now, obviously, if that test is open, I can try to find those questions that are 3.C, right? So I can look at 3.C and attempt to jump down, like there's my first 3.C. Can I answer this question, right? So you could go over the 3 or 4 questions if your teacher made it available and actually go through the examples of them. But I actually want to remind you something. Going over specific examples actually doesn't help them build a skill, especially if it's a question they've already seen before. So I know you really, really want, like, I want to see the 4 questions they got wrong, and I want to drill those 4 questions over and over. That actually won't result in the best growth of your child. The best way to grow is to really look holistically at that standard and ask 10 more questions, because the next quiz or the next assessment or what's on the EXL aren't going to be those 4 exact questions. It's going to be a different question that asks the same skill. So again, whether you're an ELA person using Newsela or Wonders or IXL for math or for social studies, Gizmos, we have tons of educational tools out there that are available for you. Khan Academy, for instance, for all 4 core subject areas, that you could pull a practice from this skill and use it. Also, we always know our teachers are scaffolding and differentiating and personalizing instruction all the time. So as I said before, in their modules, they may already have, hey, if you're struggling with a standard, try this extension activity or try this remediation piece. Or it just prompts a conversation with your parent. I jump up an email. Hey, I noticed my son or daughter got a 75. He's usually an A or B student. and I saw that they really struggled with 3C. Is there something you could help me, point me in the right direction? And likely that teacher might come back with an IXL, come back with a Delta Math if it's a secondary student. So there's lots of ways for it to engage in a conversation with your child or eventually with your teacher at a parent-teacher conference. But again, it's the spark of conversation that leads to growth and excellence for your students.
This is incredibly powerful. Thank you so much for making that clear. That shift in conversation from the overall grade to the specific standard is a game changer for supporting learning at home. So everyone watching, let's recap the key takeaways. First, reviewing Mastery Connect data is a sit-together activity that you do with your child using their login. Secondly, the goal is to move past the grade and look at the mastery level for each standard. And then finally, if you cannot see the specific questions or answers, remember that the teacher sets visibility. So don't hesitate to reach out to them directly. However, they may not be able to be changed if it is a common assessment used in the building or across the division. So on behalf of the Department of Technology Innovation, thank you, Thomas, for your expertise, and thank you all for joining us. We hope you feel even more empowered to support your child's learning. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Thank you, panelists, for your wealth of information. Should you have any questions about this webinar or need additional information and/or resources, please contact us at face@cpschools.com. Keep in mind that Let's Talk is the perfect two-way communication for any comments, questions, suggestions, or concerns that you may have. Also, you can stay connected to Chesapeake Public Schools through the different platforms listed on the screen. Make sure you scan the QR code to download our app to receive notification about important events. Remember, families and communities work better together. Thank you.